First World War witnessed a level of devastation that few could comprehend at the time. A general war in Europe had left millions maimed, millions more dead, and entire societies traumatized, and set the stage for the rest of the 20th century. Besides the accoutrements of modern war, the trenches also birthed a global epidemic, the Spanish flu. Martha Hilderth tracks how France attempted to treat and contain the disease, but also charts the prevailing beliefs of disease at the time, as well as the debates held by doctors. While the debates about what causes disease did not drastically affect the response to the epidemic, it nevertheless shows us a great deal of how disease and medicine were conceptualized at the start of the postmodern world. At the start of the 20th century, many Europeans felt a great optimism. The industrial revolutions and advancements in science seemed to promise a better future for all Europeans. In terms of medicine, Hilderth describes in, quote, age of great therapeutic optimism, unquote. Even though the First World War shattered much of this optimism, it still held in terms of medicine and public health. Yet, despite all the advancements, there was still considerable disagreement on what caused disease and what propagated their spread. While most doctors had accepted a variant of the germ theory, there was much debate about whether certain places, foyer d'épidémie, created a localized miasma, whether the flu was a bacterium or a virus, or whether the flu was even a single disease. Hilderth notes that, quote, it seemed as if everyone and his colleague had his own favorite microbe or combination of microbes, unquote. While these debates were important for our understanding of disease, they ultimately did not have much influence on the actual treatments recommended to contain the disease. Hilderth notes that, quote, the exact regimen varied, but exhaustive medical intervention was the order of the day, unquote. The French followed a twofold strategy to contain the pestilence. 1, eliminate any kind of miasmatic vapors, and 2, protect the body with a, quote, disinfectant barrier, unquote. In order to counter, quote, invisible clouds of infectious emanations, unquote, antiseptic vapors were to be pumped into crowded and public spaces. Eucalyptus, phenol, gum, among other substances. There were also policies of public sanitation, daily pickups of garbage in cities, often utilizing, quote, military equipment and personnel to do so, unquote. Public spitting was banned with penalties, quote, as was dry sweeping and the beating of rugs, unquote. While these public measures were attempted, they did not appear to be very effective. Thus, quote, the most prevalent means of prevention focused on protecting the body itself, unquote. A variety of serums, potions, lotions, jellies, plasters, and ointments were prescribed by doctors to create a shield against invading microbes. Both fronts of this attack on disease ultimately expanded state power and asserted control over both public spaces and individual bodies. The response to the Spanish flu tells us much about the assumptions and methodologies of early 20th century medicine. There is an emphasis upon prevention, control, and a modernist rationalism, a shift towards bench medicine. Hilderth notes that, quote, the laboratory was a powerful influence in the therapies of the era, unquote. While there was ongoing debate in the medical community about the exact cause of the disease, the debate did not have much influence over the regimens utilized. Hildreth notes that the epidemic, quote, did not call into question the basic therapeutic perspective of the era, unquote. What seems to be a more significant shift is the role of the state in treating and countering the contagion, a growth in public health and state power directly connected to the exigencies of the Great War. As was noted in previous videos, the French, while hesitant to adopt Prussian methods of public health, nevertheless did so by the 1920s. One could argue that World War I opened the door for more state power in regulating public health, as Hildreth notes that the, quote, context of national emergency and the cultural sense of desperate times created a social atmosphere in which drastic and extensive remedies and heroic efforts seemed appropriate in medicine as well as in war, unquote. This can be seen clearly with the Milne method, a regimen for disinfecting the air in military hospitals, a measure pioneered by the military being utilized in the civilian sphere. Hildreth, through examining the frameworks of medical debate as counterposed to health policies, demonstrates an ideological emphasis upon intervention. This emphasis upon intervention and the control of society and individuals in the name of public health was commonplace throughout the 19th century and played a significant role in the power of the state, colonial tropical medicine, and ultimately, the eugenics movement.